Previously in Little Nightmares.
Ruth finds herself standing on the roof of a mini skyscraper. A voice breaks the silence with casual, "Hey!" introducing himself as Jester. But before she could take a step, she spots something crawling across the rooftop. She sees the same man from her previous dream. The counselor declares that hypnosis will help Ruth remember he's been lurking in the shadows of her dreams, watching and waiting. Suddenly, shouts break the dreamy silence, and Ruth turns around to find out. She scrambles down the ladder and is greeted by a wart-covered brute. To Ruth's horror, she realized the bather was scrubbing himself with Jester. Ruth accidentally slipped on a slimy tile. The bather, now all eyes on Ruth. The bather reached out with his wart-covered hand and managed to grab her leg. The bather managed to pull her down, but the jar fell along with her, shattering on top of the bather. Suddenly, a cloud of gas was unleashed from the bather's melting body. Ruth felt a weird sense of satisfaction from melting the bather. The fifth session officially kicks off when the counselor tells Ruth they've gotten to know each other very well over the past few days. Ruth now sees the counselor as a friend, given away they tell to each other freely. And while the counselor agrees they have indeed formed a friendship, the counselor tells Ruth the session will focus on her analyzing her own unconscious mind, where she will ask herself questions in order to try and better understand her own nightmare. Ruth looks over to the mirror in the room and asks if she can use it to speak to her reflection, feeling it will further set the tone for her interviewing herself. The counselor agrees and hands her the mirror, and off Ruth goes, describing waking up in a dark, eerie place, feeling a hand let go of hers. Opening her eyes, she finds herself laying on a scorching hot concrete floor, looking up startled to see that there is no sun, no stars, just an endless expanse of darkness, like she's been plunged into the void itself. Peering out into the area, she sees a giant, ominous parking lot stretching out to the horizon, with abandoned cars and flickering streetlights. Turning around, she relieved to see a massive looming shopping mall in the distance, so grand it makes her feel like she's half her size. The mall doors swing open, inviting her inside with a strange allure, and she runs towards it, eager to escape the desolate emptiness outside. As she steps inside, the lights flicker on, one by one, and eerie, distorted music begins to play on the speakers, like a warped tune. The counselor questions why she didn't feel scared or the need to find an exit and leave immediately, to which she simply responds that she felt welcomed and safe. Ruth continues her narration of the nightmare, describing that many of the shops in the mall were closed and seemed to have no doors or displays. She peers through the glass of the shops, seeing eerie shadows moving inside. Disappointed by the closed shops, she suddenly hears the distorted speaker announcing a sale at a toy shop called Jujub's Toys, located by a fountain in the ground floor of her current location. Excited, Ruth follows the sound of bubbles and strange lights to the toy shop. Entering the toy shop, she's amazed and delighted to see shelves overflowing with toys, each one more twisted and unsettling than the last, feeling like she's stepped into a surreal nightmare factory. The first shelves are filled with dusty toys like relics from a forgotten time, and the following shelves have toys she knows she already owns, but distorted and twisted. However, the deeper she ventures into the shop, the stranger the toys become, like something out of feverish hallucination. Later on, she spots a Lottie Potty doll, a toy she had always wanted as a child. But as she picks it up, she notices something. The doll eyes are black as coal instead of blue, and its skin is sickly yellow, like a decayed leaves, making her feel like she's holding a cursed object from a cursed place. Realizing the shopkeeper is nowhere to be seen, she dropped down on the carpet to play with the doll. However, as she plays, she quickly grows bored, feeling like she's outgrown the childish toys. The doll suddenly wets itself, as if responding to her thoughts, but instead of water, it releases a dark, thick liquid that oozes out like a blood, making Ruth jump back in horror. Setting the doll aside, she looks around for another toy in the towering shelves. Finally, she settles on the gaming section of the shop, hoping for something familiar, but she can only find games to play in pairs. As she searches for a partner to play with, the lights flicker ominously, casting eerie shadows around her, and just as she reaches for a game, the lights go out completely, plunging her into pitch darkness. Ruth hears the eerie voice whispering, "I'll play with you." She looks around, finding no one, but she spots the jewelry making kit with a red necklace on the cover. She snatches it up, hurries back to where she left the Lottie doll. She's shocked to find it mysteriously vanished. The shelf above her, which was filled with dolls just moments ago, is now eerily empty. Despite her excitement about the jewelry kit, a strange feeling washes over her. As she sets the kit down, the speaker crackles to life with the woman's voice, announcing the closing of Jujub's toys. Ruth exits the shop, only to find the lights flickering off and the bubbles stopping and a toy train behind her crashing to a sudden stop. Walking down the deserted boulevard, she takes in the details around her, noting the floor's beryl white color with patterns that look like veins. Spotting 3 flights of stairs, she chooses one and ascends to the next floor of the shop. Immediately, she finds herself in another open store, a jewelry shop called Mademoiselle Bergetier. Feeling like she's entered the fancy nightmare boutique, the counselor is surprised by Ruth's ability to read in her dream. As Ruth eyes the red pendant in the glass case, the speaker crackles to life again, announcing it is a free gift for girls 10 and under. Without hesitation, Ruth takes the necklace and puts it on. Ruth preps to leave the shop with her gift. The speaker suddenly takes on a dramatic tone as if 2 voices are arguing, one saying, "Don't overdo it," while the other insists one more prize cannot hurt. Suddenly, a rack of dresses rolls out in front of her, all her sizes. Ruth, feeling a sense of excitement, admires the dresses, knowing it's been a long time since she's been able to choose her own clothes. But her joy turns to shock when she sees the same plaid dress she wore the day she arrived at the CPI. Posing in front of a mirror, she imitates a deep, mature voice, asking her reflection why her real life is mixing with her dreams. Leaving the boutique, she hears the shop gate slam shut behind her, but her attention is quickly drawn to spinning lights on the 3rd floor above her, flashing and twirling in a mesmerizing way. Ruth found herself in the theater lobby, surrounded by a sea of red decor and buckets of popcorn spilling over like a corny avalanche. With the lights dimmed around the mall, she followed the eerie glow leading her to the theater. As she entered the theater, the smell of freshly popped popcorn filled her nose, making her stomach growl louder than a hungry werewolf. Taking a seat, the chair seemed to wrap around her like overly affectionate boa constrictor, giving her an unexpected hug. Just as Ruth settled in with her popcorn, the room plunged into darkness. The movie started to play, but it wasn't the familiar The Healing Horn, her favorite show, as she expected. Instead, it was a bizarre remix with burning trees and a unicorn's horn that looked like it had a bad hair day. The scenes were all mixed up, and the evil prince's face was so wrong it made Ruth wonder if the makeup artist was Freddy Krueger. Ruth glanced around the theater only to realize the audience around her were lifeless mannequins, their plastic eyes staring blankly. Then the scent of the ocean wafted through the air. The figure of the Candleman materialized, his eyes and mouth like bottomless pits in a soggy sand. The Candleman's voice echoed through the theater as he cryptically repeated, "The faraway drifts near, tread along, then sink deep. 2 flows from one, and here is whole again." I mean, if he is not the worst poet, I don't know who. Anyway, the counselor leaning forward in anticipation, asked Ruth for more details about the Candleman's creepy speech. But when the counselor pushed for more information, Ruth shrugged. She explained that in the dream world, things don't always make sense. As the Candleman's eerie voice continued to echo, and as the movie continued to play with its twisted scenes and ghostly mannequin audience, and as the theater room filled with tension and uncertainty, Ruth couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was lurking just beyond the screen. As the counselor's frustration grows, he starts to wonder if the Candleman is just a figment of Ruth's wild imagination. The counselor storms out of the room, muttering something about needing a break from the headache-inducing mystery. Ruth left alone, her own headache now pounding and painful. But the counselor eventually returns, catching Ruth as she clutches the mirror he lent her at the start of the session. He asks Ruth what she plans to do with the mirror, but he decides to give her the benefit of the doubt. The counselor then tries to smooth things over, offering Ruth a pill for her headache. In a moment of rare vulnerability, the counselor admits to Ruth that he has also been losing sleep over this whole nightmare business. Quickly changing the subject back to Ruth and the Candleman, the counselor tries to offer some reassurance as Ruth's headache begins to ease. And as they sit there, mirror in hand and pill swallowed, Ruth continues her haunted adventure from the theater. When Ruth ventures to the projector room, the voices she heard before start yelling, "No batteries in the projector!" The door jams as Ruth tries to open it. When she finally enters the room, Ruth sees the deformed eye-shaped projector staring back at them like a haunted cyclops. As Ruth hears the voice saying her real nickname, "Happy day, Nun," the voice started desperately begging Ruth to stay. When Ruth declines the creature's offers, Ruth notices the walls oozing with the same dark liquid as the Lottie doll. In her way out, Ruth saw the Candleman pointing at the pendant she's wearing. When Ruth throws the pendant into the dark liquid, the speaker pleads, "Don't take her, not this one too," talking to the Candleman. Ruth can't stop wondering why she keeps having such nightmares. The counselor admits no one really knows why she dreams. He, for one, simply assumed her dreams were what his studies said the brain's way of filtering subconscious thoughts, but he never had any real answer. His old professor, on the other hand, thought he knew the answer, as he believed dreams come from a semi-tangible place outside the mind, a place that was the essence of consciousness. With the candy jar in hand, the counselor knows their session is coming to a close. Sweets for my sweets. The counselor admits that Ruth's symptoms are beyond normal. Her dreams are too detailed and her vocabulary too advanced. However, what he finds most unbelievable is that Ruth has seen the same figure as his sister Cece saw, the ferryman. The counselor wonders if Ruth and Cece, who have never met, yet share the same dream experiences, are proof of transpersonal dreaming. However, given Ruth is experiencing her dreams years after Cece, there is no logical explanation for them to be proof of transpersonal dreaming, as they would have had to have their dreams around the same time, but are instead years apart, making the counselor attempts to consider there may actually be a non-scientific explanation for Ruth's dreams. He stops himself from thinking any further, refusing to involve himself in ideas that are not scientifically logical, something his old professor once did. The counselor states he has spent years trying to keep himself on the logical path by convincing himself that what he experienced years ago with his professor was wrong. Yet his memories of those events are all he can think of now. Later, the counselor rummages through papers and finds the research paper that ruined his professor's career. While he had hoped there was some truth to his professor's words, he additionally dreaded it. The counselor reads his professor's paper out loud, According to his old professor, they have spent years trying to find the center of the universe, but were wrong about it, being the Earth, and then later on, the Sun. Although people claim their species is superior, it is scientifically proven they as a species can be wrong. And if they were wrong about the center of the universe, then it's only a matter of time before they all realize they were also wrong about reality. The reality they see now may not be the only world, let alone the superior one.